The sound of the slap was sharp, loud, and unforgettable. It echoed across the room, freezing everything in place. In that exact second, something inside me didn't just hurt. It broke completely. Not just anger, not just shock, but years of silence, years of patience, years of convincing myself that this family was still worth holding on to. As I looked at my daughter Clara, standing there with her tiny hand pressed against her cheek, her eyes wide in confusion and pain, I realized a truth I had avoided my entire life. This was not love. This was never love. My name is Maria Isbell. I am 38 years old, a successful architect, and the owner of a growing real estate firm. From the outside, my life looks perfect. A beautiful home, a caring husband, Daniel, and a wonderful 7-year-old daughter who means everything to me. But behind that perfect image, there was a wound that never healed. And every Sunday, that wound was reopened. Every Sunday at exactly 3 p.m., my phone would ring. And I already knew who it was before even looking. My mother, Beatrice. The name alone was enough to make my chest tighten. It wasn't a loving call. It wasn't even a real invitation. It was a command wrapped in sweetness. You're coming, right? She would say, as if I had a choice. And like always, I would answer, yes, Mom. Even when I didn't want to go. Even when I knew what was waiting for me there. That Sunday was no different. I looked around my peaceful living room. Daniel was reading quietly, relaxed. Clara was lying on the floor, drawing happily, completely lost in her little world. For a moment, I wished I could just stay, freeze that moment, protect it, but I didn't. I chose the same thing I had always chosen. Silence when I told Clara we were going. Her smile faded immediately. Do we have to? She asked softly. Grandma doesn't like when I draw there. Her words were simple, but they carried truth. A truth I had been ignoring. I forced a smile and promised her ice cream later, knowing it wouldn't fix anything. As I stood in front of the mirror getting ready, I carefully chose my clothes. Not too elegant, not too simple, just enough to avoid criticism. I stared at my reflection for a long moment. I saw a strong woman, but I also saw a little girl who was still trying to earn her mother's approval. The drive to the penthouse felt longer than usual. Every street, every turn reminded me of memories I had buried deep inside. Memories of being overlooked, compared, ignored. I remembered my 10th birthday, the day my father had secretly saved money to throw me a small party. But my mother had taken that money and spent it on my sister Lorena instead. I didn't complain. I never did. That night, my father came into my room and gave me a small silver compass. Find your own way, he said. Don't depend on anyone. At the time, I didn't understand, but now I finally did. When we arrived, the doors of the penthouse opened into a space that looked perfect, but felt empty, cold, controlled. My mother greeted Regina, my niece, with excitement, calling her my queen, showering her with affection. When she looked at us, it was different, polite, distant, almost forced. Clara held my hand tightly. She didn't say anything, but she didn't need to. She felt it too. At the dining table, everything revolved around Regina. Her achievements, her hobbies, her future. Clara sat quietly, holding her small notebook. After a while, she gathered courage and asked softly, "Can I draw?" Without even looking at her, my mother replied, "Not here. You'll make a mess." Clara nodded silently and walked away. No argument, no complaint, just quiet acceptance. And that silence hurt me more than anything. Dinner continued like always, conversations that excluded us, laughter that didn't include us. Then dessert arrived. The best portion was placed in front of Regina. Clara received the smallest piece. She didn't react. She simply accepted it. Then Clara began drawing again, this time quietly, carefully. Daniel watched her with a proud smile. But Regina noticed. She walked over, looked at the drawing, and smirked. "That doesn't even look like him," she said. And before anyone could react, she spilled water all over it. Clara gasped, her eyes filling instantly. "You did that on purpose?" She cried. I stood up immediately, my patience finally breaking. I demanded an apology. But instead of support, I was met with excuses. It was an accident, Lorena said calmly. She's too sensitive. My mother added coldly. Those words. I had heard them my entire life. Asterisk, those words stayed in the air like poison. Too sensitive. That's what I had been called my entire life whenever I dared to feel something. Whenever I noticed unfairness. Whenever I expected love. And now, my daughter was hearing the same thing. Asterisk, I looked at Clara. Her eyes were wet, her small hands trembling as she held what was left of her ruined drawing. Daniel stood beside her, his jaw tight, trying to stay calm, but I could see the anger in his eyes. This wasn't just a small incident. This was a pattern, a cycle, and I had allowed it to continue for far too long. Asterisk apologized, I said again, this time more firmly, asterisk. But before Regina could even respond, Lorena stepped forward. Maria, you're overreacting. They're just kids. Asterisk, just kids. That excuse again. I felt something inside me rising, something stronger than fear, stronger than the need to stay quiet. Asterisk, no, I said slowly. This is not just kids. This is disrespect. The room went silent. My mother's expression hardened instantly. Don't start creating drama here, she said coldly. Drama. That's what she called it whenever I spoke the truth. Clara moved closer to me, holding onto my arm. I could feel her fear, not just from what had happened, but from the tension in the room. And suddenly, I realized something that shook me deeply. She was becoming me, quiet, careful, afraid to speak, asterisk, and I couldn't let that happen. Asterisk before I could say anything else. A loud cry came from the other room. Regina had thrown herself onto the floor, crying dramatically, asterisk, she pushed me. Regina shouted, asterisk, Clara froze. No, I didn't. I swear I didn't, she said quickly, her voice shaking, but no one listened. No one ever listened. Asterisk, my mother walked toward Clara with anger in her eyes. How dare you? She said sharply. Asterisk, I stepped forward immediately. Mom, stop. Listen to her first. Asterisk, but she didn't even hesitate. Her hand rose in the air and before I could reach her, slap, the sound cut through everything. Time stopped. Clara didn't cry immediately. She just stood there, frozen, her hand slowly moving to her cheek. Her eyes searched for me, confused, hurt, betrayed, asterisk, and in that exact moment, something inside me changed forever. Not fear, not hesitation, clarity. I rushed to her, pulling her into my arms. She buried her face into me and finally began to cry. Soft, broken sobs that felt like knives in my chest. Asterisk, it's okay. It's okay. I'm here, I whispered, holding her tightly. Asterisk, Daniel stepped closer, his voice controlled but firm. We're leaving. Yes, I said immediately. For the first time in my life, I didn't look at my mother for permission. I didn't wait. I didn't hesitate. We turned toward the door. If you walk out now, my mother's voice came from behind us, sharp and cold. Don't ever come back. I stopped for a second. Not because I was afraid, asterisk, but because I realized I wasn't, asterisk, I didn't turn around, then I won't, I said quietly. And we left. Asterisk, the elevator ride down felt different. Silent, but lighter. Clara was still crying softly, holding on to me. Daniel wrapped his arm around both of us. You did the right thing, he said. For the first time, I believed it. Asterisk in the car, Clara slowly calmed down, but she didn't say much. She just leaned against me, holding my hand tightly, as if afraid I might let go. Asterisk, and I knew I never would again. Asterisk, that night, after putting Clara to bed, I sat in the living room with Daniel. The house was quiet, but my mind wasn't. Asterisk, I should have done this years ago. I said softly, asterisk, Daniel looked at me. What matters is that you did it now. He was right. But I wasn't done yet. Because walking away wasn't enough. Not anymore. Asterisk the next morning. I called my lawyer. My voice was calm, steady. I want to cancel everything connected to my mother. I said asterisk. There was a brief silence. Everything. Yes, asterisk. Yes, everything. Asterisk, the penthouse, the accounts, the financial support. All of it. Asterisk for years, I had been the one silently holding everything together, supporting her lifestyle, paying for things she never even acknowledged. Asterisk, and now it was over. 2 days later, my phone rang again. My mother, I answered. Maria, what did you do? Her voice was filled with panic. My cards aren't working. Asterisk, I closed my eyes for a second. Not out of fear, but out of realization. Asterisk, for the first time. She needed me. I revoked everything, I said calmly. There was silence, then anger. You ungrateful child. After everything I've done for you, I didn't let her finish. No, I said firmly. After everything you've done to me, she went quiet. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. Asterisk, I felt free. For the first time in my life, I felt free. Asterisk, that silence after the call wasn't heavy, it wasn't painful, it was peaceful. I stood there for a moment, holding my phone, realizing that something I had carried for decades was finally gone. Asterisk, not my mother, but her control. The next few days were quiet. No constant calls, no pressure, no anxiety building up as Sunday approached. For the first time in years, Sunday came, and nothing happened. Asterisk, no phone ringing at 3 p.m. No forced visit, no emotional exhaustion, just peace. Clara noticed it too. Asterisk, that Sunday morning, she woke up slowly, stretched, and looked at me with a small smile. We're not going there today, she asked carefully. Asterisk, I smiled back and shook my head. No, we're staying home. Asterisk, her face lit up in a way I hadn't seen before. A real smile, pure, free. Asterisk, can I draw? She asked. Asterisk, that question broke something inside me again. But this time, it wasn't pain. It was realization. Yes, I said softly. You can draw wherever you want. Asterisk, she ran to get her colors, spreading them across the living room floor without fear, no hesitation, no looking around to check if it was allowed. Asterisk, Daniel looked at me and smiled. This is how it should have always been. And he was right. Days turned into weeks. Asterisk, Clara slowly changed. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in small, beautiful ways. She laughed more. She spoke more. She stopped second-guessing herself. And most importantly, she stopped being afraid. Asterisk, we enrolled her in an art class nearby. On her first day, she was nervous, holding my hand tightly. But by the end of the class, she came running toward me, her eyes shining. Asterisk, Mom. My teacher said I tell stories with my drawings. Stories. That word stayed with me because that's exactly what she was doing. She wasn't just drawing. She was expressing everything she had been holding inside. And for the first time, she had the space to do it. Asterisk, at home, things felt different too. Lighter, warmer. Asterisk, Daniel and I spent more time together, talking, laughing, existing without that constant invisible pressure hanging over us. One night, as we sat on the couch watching Clara draw on the floor, he looked at me and said something I will never forget. Asterisk, I've never seen you this present before. I looked at him confused. You were always here, he continued, but part of you is somewhere else. Still trying to fix something that was never yours to fix. He was right. For years, I had been trying to earn something that should have been given freely. Love, respect, acceptance. But the truth was, I was never going to get it from her. Asterisk, and accepting that set me free. Asterisks, about 3 weeks later, my phone rang again. I looked at the screen. My mother. Asterisk, for a second. I considered not answering. But then I did. Her voice was different this time. Softer, slower. I miss you. She said. I stayed quiet. I miss Clara. She added. That sentence hit differently. Not because I believed her, but because I understood something clearly. She didn't miss as she missed control. I hope you're doing okay, I replied calmly. There was a pause. I made a mistake, she said. I shouldn't have hit her. Asterisk, that was the first time. She admitted it, but something inside me didn't move. Because apologies without change mean nothing. Asterisk, I appreciate you saying that, I replied, but things are different now. Asterisk, what does that mean? She asks, a slight edge returning to her voice. Asterisk, it means, I said carefully, I will make sure you're taken care of. You'll have what you need. But Clara will not be coming back there. Silence. Then anger. Asterisk, you're keeping my granddaughter away from me. Asterisk, I closed my eyes for a second, not out of fear, but out of strength. I'm protecting my daughter, I said firmly. Another silence. Asterisk, but this time it didn't shake me. Asterisk, I'll call you later. I added asterisk, and it hung up. No guilt, no hesitation, just clarity. Time passed. Months turned into a year, then two, asterisk, and life became something I had never truly experienced before. Peaceful, stable, safe. Clara grew into a confident, expressive little girl. Her drawings became more detailed, more emotional, more alive. One day, she handed me a picture. It was our family, me, her, Daniel, asterisk, smiling, all together. Above us, she had written something in bright colors. Asterisk, home is where I feel safe. I couldn't hold back my tears because that was it. Asterisk, that was everything. Not the penthouse, not the money, not the approval. This, asterisk, this was what mattered. I didn't destroy my family. I didn't walk away from love. I walked away from pain. From control. From years of being made to feel like I was never enough. And in doing so, I gave my daughter something I never had. A safe place to grow. A voice that wouldn't be silenced. A life without fear. Asterisk, if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Family is not about blood. It's about how they treat you. Asterisk, and sometimes. Asterisk, walking. Away is not weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do. I chose my daughter, asterisk, and I would choose her again every single time. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell me, what would you have done